In this brief video, I'm going to walk you through the final ethics assignment for Religion 212 for fall 2021. In this assignment, you're going to be working with a book that you can choose from a list of books that I have put together about a series of ethical topics that relate to theology. The idea here is to allow you to explore how theology and ethics relate. It'll also build on the practicing you've done over the course of semester with looking at people's theological arguments and understanding how they're making them, the grounds that they're using, and then how they're connecting them to ethical and social issues. So I've set this up with what I'm calling the fake situation. Imagine this. There's a group, a congregation, or a faith-based group of some kind that's writing a policy statement on an ethical or a social issue. It might be immigration, it might be sexuality, it might be abortion, things like that. So sometimes faith groups come together and say, we need to have a position as a faith group on this issue. As the group is trying to put together their position, they are turning to theologically educated people to help them. What they are asking those people to do is to read a book on the topic and explain the author's argument about the issue and how the author makes the argument, and then to identify strengths and weaknesses of the position or the argument. You are the theologically educated person. And I want you to note here, they are looking for theologically educated people, not people from their faith community necessarily, not people who share their belief system. So they're not assuming in this that you agree with them or that you agree with the position of the book. They're simply asking you because you understand how theology works and how ideas hold together. The group has said that you are free to present this information in a format of your choice. So it can be a video, it could be a podcast, it could be a letter to them, it could be something more like a formal paper. You have kind of a range of ways that you can present it to them, but it has to be a way where if someone's not at the meeting, they can say, well, go to this YouTube video or listen to this podcast. So you can't do one dramatic performance one night where everybody has to be there. Again, things to keep in mind. The group does not assume that you are part of the faith tradition or that you agree with the position of the book. So it's possible that you're working on a book, the position of which you absolutely disagree. That's fine. They're not looking for your agreement. They're just looking for you to be able to say, this is how this argument works, and here's our theological strengths and weaknesses. As you think about these group members, you can assume that they have some theological background. So they know what the Trinity is, basically speaking. If you throw out a name like Martin Luther, they're going to know who that is. But they haven't taken a theology class recently, so they really do need help putting ideas together and seeing how they work together. All right, that's the situation I want you to imagine yourself in. Here's the real situation, is that you're doing this for this class and for me. So you're going to choose a book from the list about one of the issues. And I want to be really clear about this list. These are books around a series of issues that are contested in American religious life. The authors are people who, within various circles of Christianity, would be known. Just because I have put a book on the list doesn't mean I agree with the position or the argument. I may find some of the positions absolutely wrong-headed, but I wanted to give you a breadth in terms of the ideas that you could be working with. If as you look at this list, you think, I want to work on this topic, but I'm just not in a place where I can really deeply engage with somebody who thinks X, you can feel free to talk to me about the book, the likely position of the author, where he or she might be coming from. That's all fine. But just know that this is a list of books by people who are kind of recognized and kind of across the spectrum, or would be recognized by people at various points on the spectrum of American Christianity. They are not all positions I agree with or that I expect you to agree with. And you couldn't actually agree with all the positions because the authors on this list disagree with each other. What you're going to be asked to do is to present the argument and explain how the author makes the argument. So you'll have practice doing this over the course of the semester. We read several articles during the semester where people are tying ethical positions to theology. So we'll do some practice about what this looks like. But briefly, you want to think about the sources the author uses. So how are they using the Bible? How are they using Christian tradition or theological ideas? What theological ideas are they using? How are they putting them together? What sources seem to be the most important for them? And then you want to evaluate the argument. What are the strengths and the weaknesses of this argument? And here, it's not just whether you agree or disagree with the position, that's fine, but whether you think the argument makes sense. Given their sources, given where they're coming from, does it make sense? And then you're free to say, and here's maybe why they should have thought about starting in a different place or using a different theological concept. So there are multiple ways that you can critique this argument. And remember, critique doesn't always mean disagree. An evaluation can be largely positive. You may say, yes, this is a really strong argument. They use these concepts. Here's how they use them. And here's why using them this way is a good idea. So it needs to be an evaluation. It doesn't need to be a negative evaluation. You again have some choice in terms of format, but what you choose must be word-based. I think art, I think drama, I think dance are incredibly great. I am not equipped to grade them, so it needs to be word-based, meaning spoken, written. Yeah, those are your options, spoken or written. It needs to be something I can reread, rewatch, or re-listen to. So the format needs to be something where if I think, oh, I need to go back and listen to this part or reread this part, I'll have access to it. So again, you can't come to my office and do a one-time drama. You need to have some method for citation. Direct quotations should include page numbers. Either if you're doing a podcast, you should have a page that you put with the podcast or that you send to me with those page numbers. There needs to be some kind of works cited page, or you can do that through show notes that you can send it to me, but some way where you're showing your work and showing who you're quoting. And you might want to think about that in terms of your format. If you're doing a podcast or doing a YouTube video, how do you acknowledge somebody's work or when you're quoting so that the people watching it or listening to it know when something is being quoted or an idea is being referenced? You can work in groups of up to 2. Those aren't large groups, but this isn't really designed to be a group project. But if you think that it might be useful for, say, to read a book and have 2 people kind of go back and forth on an issue together, you could do that. If you wanted to pick 2 books on the same topic that disagree and then kind of work together, again, maybe that's a podcast, maybe that's a YouTube video, something like that, that's fine. The key is that I have to be able to tell whose work is whose. So it can't be a situation where you say we're working in a group of 2 people and one person does a podcast and the other person is the sound engineer. You don't get points for the Christian Theology course for being the sound engineer. Again, sound engineering, very important. Not, though, something you're going to get credit for in this course. So you're free to work in groups of up to 2, but I should be able to sort of see whose work is whose and grade them independently. Some thesis ideas. How do I write a thesis for this project? Is it just kind of a book review? Well, it's kind of like a book review, but it's an evaluative book review. You're showing me that you can read a piece of theology and ethics, identify the thesis, and then evaluate it. How that might look might sound something like this. Author argues, or the author argues X or this on these grounds. Why? While the author makes a strong case on those grounds, the author might also have considered some other theological concept, idea, source. Author prods Christians to do X with a particular focus on some theological source or idea. While these grounds might be compelling to some Christians, others might wonder why author did not consider whatever you think the author didn't consider. The author contends that Christians should think about this ethical issue in terms of these theological ideas or sources. In doing so, the author provides solid theological ground for the author's position. Then you'll show why that is. So notice in all of these theses, I name the position, the grounds on which the author makes the position, or grounds on which the author argues the position, and then my evaluation of both the position but really the grounds, how well the argument's made. So this isn't simply I disagree with the author's position, but I'm evaluating how the author made their argument. Due date, December 10th by 5 p.m. This is not something for which you're going to have a revision, but I'm happy at any point in the semester to look at what you're doing, to sit down and read drafts, to do all those things. So a lot of times with your other book reviews, you're able to write it, upgrade it, and then you get a revision opportunity. Because of the scope of this project and because I'm going to give you basically the entire semester to do it, I'm having it due later, which makes revision tough. But if that makes you nervous, start working on it early and come in and we will work through drafts and we can go through all of those things. There is a rubric as part of your syllabus and on Moodle that you can look at so you can see how I'll be grading it. You have the list of books that you can choose from, and there will also, of course, be an assignment sheet. If you have a book or a topic in mind that's not on that list, you can talk to me about it. But I would really encourage you to work off of that list. I think those topics, the writers are going to be people who are making the kinds of connections between theology and ethics that will make this kind of project possible for you to do. Again, at any point, if you have any questions, please just let me know.